Well, the rise of the internet in Uganda has actually received an immense boost with the fact that the generation has definitely adapted to the digital era. When you look at the last few years back, you could definitely agree that every one of us here in the world, not only in Uganda, everyone has been keeping up to speed with the internet. Everyone has been entitled to making sure they get a smartphone, or either way, buy these data bundles. In a time of this era, we've come to realize that people can't even live without the internet. You could definitely agree back in 2021 during the poll elections of Uganda, when the internet had been switched off. Many Ugandans were not living a normal life. But with that, our main discussion here today is going to be looking at the internet and the data when it comes to the internet service providers. And with us in studio, we are joined by Mr. Godfrey Seramkoko, the chairman of the Internet Service Providers Association in Uganda. Many thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
I think he's on a high note that we do start up this discussion. It's a new month, and we can really look at many things as the month is just starting up. Well, with our main discussion, you are representing the association that governs the service providers, the internet service providers. But before that, can you just give us an overview, an insightful overview of the journey of internet in Uganda?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. The journey of the internet journey in Uganda is a very interesting one. For those of you that have had the privilege to come from its initial start, the genesis of everything. I joined an internet service provider right out of Makere in 2001, but definitely that means that before there is internship and training from very different providers. I can say that our journey starts from the dial-up. And the companies, being that I'm the chairman of the association, let me keep the neutrality of companies. But it starts with a dial-up, and those of you that don't know a dial-up, it used to be a small modem, and old computers used to come with a small port, where now you have what they call an Ethernet port. They used to be called a telephone port in there. And single provider at that time for telephony was UTL, Uganda. And it used to be called Uganda Posts and Telecommunications, UPTC, before Posts and...
We're talking of 2001 now.
No, before.
Before
prior.
2000.
Yes,
okay.
That is way before. Before government had telecommunications. I mean, there was telecommunications, everybody knows. We had Mpoma Satellite. Mpoma Satellite was, we used to have ViewTV, and we have live World Cup matches. So there was a telecommunications, government telecommunications entity, and it used to be called UPTC, Uganda Posts and Telecommunications. And the biggest thing we used to have that connects us to the world was the big satellite dish. I think it's over 11 meters big in Mpoma. That was our gateway to the world, and most of the times it was for broadcast purposes.
Was it the one they said Idi Amin Dada brought to the country?
Yes.
Oh.
That was our gateway. Our gateway to the world on broadcasting. Everything that came from outside as far as telecommunications was concerned came through Mpoma. And it was national pride for a long time. But then as we see the journey of telecommunications within the country, once dial-up comes, again, the infrastructure that had been laid for telephony within the country that used now to come to your telephone. We used to have those telephones where you dial, you dial by, there is a dial, there are numbers.
It's a Mexican movie.
Hey, there are numbers that go around like that. Then you say 0, 2, 3, 7, 6. And if you wanted to make an international call, then there was a physical switcher at UPTCL. Then you would call him and you say, I want to call United States. He says, what is the number? You give him the number, and he says, let me call you back.
So he has to first confirm that the person is ready.
He calls the other person first. If
that consumed a lot of time.
Yes, if the person picks, then you're connected into it. And I think now the journey goes that when we come from there and when internet now comes, again our connectivity to that was still using wires, where we had to go, you put a modem, the modem dials a server that has access to the internet, probably in the UK, or it just does a telephone connection to the server that can take you to internet. And during those times, internet was just probably text. You go to a page and it is just text. You just access text.
No video, no image.
No these images that you have currently. It's just text. So you go, you read, and it's text, and that's it. I mean, those were the first browsers. The first browsers were just hello.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but our first entry into that access was to go through the dial-in. Then you dial in into a server, which gives you access. Then we transitioned from that when we had a provider here called Spacecom. And if any of you remember, there used to be a very huge dish again that was on Sheraton. And it used to have
get more of the signal.
Yes, now it used to go through a satellite signal to go and connect into the World Wide Web. So you would again dial into that server, which used to be down at, I think, Farmer's House. Oh. So you dial in there, a bank of dial-up modems, and then you could log into the internet. But using the UPTC infrastructure.
I do believe some of the terminologies being used here may be new to some of us. But then I do understand as well there are individuals who are going online with what you're saying because at least they experienced this.
Yes.
Now, we've seen journeys of the internet, and we hear of 4G, 3G,
yes,
5G, all this. What does this represent? What does that journey represent?
Now, now you're talking, the moment you talk the Gs, then now you begin to go into mobile telephony.
Okay.
When we go and say, should we really use the wire? Or is there another way of using the space? I think in our local language we call it empeo.
Okay.
But the space has properties that can actually propagate data. So initially when telecommunications was being built, again the phones were like, you see the walkie-talkies. The walkie-talkies was the first entry into the HF radios, where you see, I think it's mostly used by the army. So someone talks on the HF radio and it is one way. So he pushes and then he talks, and then so could that be adapted to civilian use? And civilian use methods on a mass scale was the initial foray into 1G. 1G, you could have a phone, and that phone could call someone. But 1G, as far as data is concerned, was also developed on the speeds of a dial-up, which are about 14 kbps.
So it was slow as well.
Very slow. So you could only do little on that phone. So the leaps that you hear 2G is because the moment people were open to the World Wide Web, which is a library, then there's collaboration between you and me, and development now on research just blew. So we had societies which would just go and develop application, develop uses, and also now that pressure went into engineering, where people would say, how can we squeeze more out of the spectrum that we have? If I can only transfer 14 kbps, that means kilobits per second. Probably for people that are listening, a letter A, we say it is 1 byte. So it has 8 bits. So if I say kilobits and I say 16 kilobits, it means I can only transfer 2 letters in 1 second, A and B. So I don't know if it makes sense to you. Yeah,
so a letter there represents certain words?
Like if I'm to say the letter, if I'm to say Joram.
Yes.
Joram is how many letters? 5 letters.
5 letters.
Yes. Now how many bytes are those? Those are 5 bytes.
5
bytes.
You understand? So the way transfer of data
was that is with 1G.
No, let me go there.
Currently.
Let me go there from a generic perspective. If I write the word Joram in an email, just the word Joram, how many bytes are those? 5 bytes. So how quickly will I transfer that email from point A to point B to the one who is going to receive it? That means I need a connection. If I need it there in 1 second, I need a connection that will be 5 bytes, will transfer 5 bytes in 1 second.
1 second.
If I can wait for it to go in 10 seconds, if I can wait for it to go in 1 hour, you see how now
so
the
there's
data
a lot of
connection
time,
goes down.
yes.
Yes.
A lot of time wasted.
Yes.
A lot of, you need to wait.
Exactly, and that was
There was even limitation, I'm learning, on the, you know, the capacity you have to fill to send.
Exactly. That is why, and we will go there. But what 2G, 3G means is that 1G was 14 kbps.
Okay.
2G doubles.
Doubled to 28.
Right. Now 3G goes to 300 megabits.
Okay.
Now 4G goes to 300 megabits. 3G is about 28, 30 megabits. Now we're going into 5G, which is 1 gigabit per second. So, and what does that mean? I can transfer, like if you say 1 giga, say a full library can be a full movie can be 4 GB. So now you have a connection that can transfer more 4 GB in 1 second.
Okay.
So, or in
That's
if you do
really
the iterations,
fast.
that's really fast. When you do download, it comes. Yeah, and that's where we're going. I mean, you have to understand that before people used to send letters, and letters reach in 3 months.
We also used to send mails at school.
Exactly, and it takes a week.
Without receiving a reply,
Now
then you need to wait.
You send a WhatsApp, and it's real time.
Just
Okay,
in
then.
a
And at
very
least
few seconds.
from the journey you're telling us, I am learning it has done a lot. The embracement or exposure of internet has come with a lot of developments here. But has it brought any negative ways?
Yes, for every good thing there is challenges. One of the first challenges that the digital space or the telecommunication space has created was the going down in business of first the posts.
Okay.
Because the
Uganda
postal
post
office. Yes, right now your post box is your number. The number on your phone. Anybody in the world can reach you.
Even the email addresses are now very active.
Exactly. So you have a digital address where you had to have a physical box in Uganda Posts and Telecommunications. So there are industries that have actually closed. And it is a journey, and the fear is that this digitization that we're into, data transfer, the collaboration that opens us to global economy, the things that we can do. I mean, right now, probably before you build your house, you know about bricks more than an engineer if he's not come prepared, isn't it? You can tell him this mix is this strong, these things.
Because now the generation truly understands a lot of things.
Exactly.
Now.
So there are jobs that we fear digital economy is going to wipe out. Like it wiped out the film. The cameraman who used to come on the,
on every weekend,
walks around, takes pictures. Now I snap, I do Snapchat, to Instagram.
Then you wait for him for a full month.
Yes.
Now people just use their mobile phone.
Now it is money. Now we pay. We don't need to carry cash. I use my fintech application.
We are going cashless.
Yes, I'm cashless. Our offices are cashless. We are going paperless because I can access data anywhere through telecommunications.
True. Yeah. So let's look at what influences prices of the internet here. We've seen a number of internet companies as internet providers setting prices, but what normally influences these prices? For instance, to say MTN is selling these MBs at 500 shillings and all that. What normally influences this?
I think people have to understand the dichotomy or the structure of what we call the internet. Internet is really just interconnectedness. And for purposes of history, is that the first people that created content on what we call knowledge content were not local. So Yahoo is not in Uganda. Facebook is not in Uganda.
Google,
Amazon is not in Uganda. It sits somewhere in the US or wherever it sits in a European country where there are other instances that have been created. And if I sit in Uganda, a landlocked country, how do I reach there? In the beginning, we used to reach there through Mpoma, satellite on Mpoma, then it lands in the UK, then it lands
Gives you
on
the
that
signal.
infrastructure. Yes, it lands into USA.
Then it returns again.
Then it returns, right? Right now, and I think since 2007, 2010, we had fiber land in Mombasa 2007. That's a cable. Now, not satellite.
Okay.
Now, a cable which goes under the sea, goes and circles the world, goes to Europe, goes to Fujairah in Middle East, goes through Suez, Suez Canal, goes through Europe, goes and connects onto the fibers that go into the US. So when you hear fiber, it means there is a fiber cable coming from Kampala, going to Mombasa, directly.
Doing the interconnection.
Yes, doing the interconnection.
Okay,
So,
and as you tell us that in East Africa, Uganda is known to have the highest price of internet.
Yes.
And maybe if you could tell us, is it not affecting a smooth running of businesses around town in real time?
Yes, and to make my point where I was saying, telling you the interconnection, is that there are prices charged for our access to those resources, charged by people who own the cables that go under the sea to all those places that host that resource. So we pay.
We have to pay for the
We
other
have
cable.
to pay for access to those resources. I have to pay for access to a person who gives me access to Yahoo, to the whole World Wide Web, because it's not resident in Uganda, right? Now, if I have to, those costs, there are those costs for infrastructure that I don't own, that goes probably until the cable lands into my internet, whether at MTN, whether at Airtel, whether at Ecotel, and all the 29 service providers. I have to pay that international cost. Now, I also have to pay a distribution cost. There is the MPEO, which now you call MTN Airtel. That is an assigned channel within the air. And we get assigned frequencies, and those frequencies also cost an arm and a leg. And if you look at all those cost inputs, including now I have to put on brick and mortar, or I have to build masts. For me to cover the whole country, I have to build masts all around the country. Where do masts get built? On land. I have to buy land.
You have to compensate, or you have to buy.
I have to compensate and buy land. There is a lot of cost. I
Don't
have to
tell us, by the way, through the journey of the masts as well.
Yes.
Because I've seen a number of them evolving now.
Yes.
Back in the day, you would see only a single mast in an area.
Yes.
Now almost each area has got a couple of masts,
Yes.
around 3.
Yes, and for you to understand telecommunications, the way because the resource that we buy that gets allocated to us from UCC is expensive. So like if you get into some of the spectrums, to buy what we call 1 megahertz, you could buy it, say, at $4,000, 1 megahertz. Now 1 megahertz can only give you about 3 on technologies like fixed technologies, it can only give you 3 megabits per second. That means if it is 4,000 and I can only get 3 megabits per second with your needs, what will I do? I'll see how to propagate it into small cells.
To see that you...
small cells so that wherever there's, if there are a good number of people here, I put a mast so that it serves those people properly. And then with exactly the same spectrum, I go to another place, so I keep on multiplying it. And that's how it makes sense to us.
Speed.
Exactly. So when there is pressure and you and our users are having a poor experience on browsing speeds, we say, so there is congestion in this area. Then we bring a mast, and then we put resources to it, and then the user experience for those people improves. But it is healthy. Masts are healthy. There is, let me tell you how there is a signal here there is a radio station here speaking. I just can't hear it. But if I put here radio, what will happen?
It will pick the signal. You will tune in the time.
Signal, for purposes of being neutral, I'll call it 88.3. FM. But what is 88.3? It is the channel.
Okay.
What is the channel? It is that spectrum.
So that is the space that you've got.
I've been allocated. Now, but it is here. If I put a radio here to receive, to tune into that signal, what will happen? I will tune into it and someone will speak through it. Okay. But it is radio, it is radio, we have telecom space even as we sit here. And is it dangerous to you?
No, I do
Because
not
that
feel
health
it. I do
implications-
not see it.
Yeah.
I do not see it. I do not feel it. So, does the radiation space affect human nature?
Because there have been claims of the health implications.
Everything in without moderation is dangerous. Water without moderation will drown you, right? We have standards against which we.
We hope we are safe here. So if you're
We are-
telling us we can put
We
the
are really
radio
safe.
just now.
Yes, I can put a radio here and listen to someone speaking. That means their voices. I can put. We're on a television here, and I can see a television there. We can receive it.
Very true.
Yes. So, and there is Wi-Fi here. We can browse. But is it harmful to you?
It isn't.
Because it is in acceptable doses. There is regulation. UCC does a good job of telling us what every gadget that comes into the country is type approved.
Okay, and it comes along with so many players now. We have got very many players coming on board in regards to telecoms. But why are the internet providers seemingly, failing in Uganda? Even when we have seen some closing business, some closings. In case in point here, being Orange and Africell changing or having interchanges.
Okay,
Why does it happen so?
I can say that it is not for one reason. For some, it is consolidation, like we saw Airtel and Warid. We do consolidation for purposes of good business.
Okay.
I have customers, you have customers, we put synergies together, we get good market
The
share.
customers come together.
Yes,
Okay.
we're doing good out there, and we're giving good services the moment I have market share. And we are also businesses, we are typical businesses. Businesses fail on operations, right?
True.
You can fail on operations. And some businesses have been failing because probably the initial vision of what they wanted to achieve out of the market is not being achieved. Let's not lie about also the purchasing capacity of our population. We've grown by leaps and bounds.
Very many.
Yes, we have 20 million internet enabled gadgets in this country. 20 million. These gadgets here.
Okay.
But the thing is that you can have projections, you don't meet them, probably you did expenses, you did roll out the whole country, and the people who are pushing for your services are not enough to do to sustain your operations. Then you make a decision like any other business, you close. If you cannot increase prices, people will complain if you can't increase prices. Even sometimes when we become innovative, some people complain. Yeah.
Well, and when you look at that, I do agree when Mr. Godfrey does say, if at all you're in business and you feel you're not making the money, it is better to bail out or you get some support either way. But with that, we do take a break. When we do return, we are going to be summing up with this discussion, but also going to look at the internet speed. Why is it slow of late? And also try to look at some of the challenges the internet service providers do face, because at least we may think they are cheating us in courts, but then they are facing some challenges that may be trying to boost that what some of you are calling a cheat code from the internet service providers. Do stick around with us. This is Smart Means Business.